We were in high school, and probably the ghost of being in the service was on our back all the time, back in those days, in the late 40s. It's kind of interesting because, see, America wasn't really ready for this.
On Sunday, June 25th, Communist forces attacked the Republic of Korea. It is obvious that we must increase our military strength and preparedness immediately. We need to send more men and equipment and supplies to General MacArthur. In view of the world situation, we need to build up our own Army, Navy, and Air Force over and above what is needed in Korea.
I decided I better get back in college, and I got drafted instead, or conscripted. Didn't cross my mind that I'd ever be in the service. I at one time wanted to be in it, but I didn't think I was ever going to be in it. And all of a sudden it was there. We still had our civvy clothes and everything. And then finally they put us on a train and took us to Richmond, Virginia, and went to the 43rd Infantry Division down there. These kids were not trained. They didn't know how to teach us. Our master sergeants were 18 years old. They really didn't know anything about the service. I was on the high seas 7 days both ways on a troop ship, and I was seasick 10 or 12 days each way. And no, it was a very unpleasant thing. The first one was the worst. They went out of San Francisco, and it was a beautiful day. And we went under the Golden Gate Bridge, and it was just gorgeous, and they took us down to the mess hall. And by the time that we got up to the deck, everybody was lined up on the edge, throwing up. And I was sick each time. I didn't think I could ever, I didn't ever made the Navy. They sent us over to Japan. We're in Tokyo. Then they sent us over to Korea, Busan. We get off the boat, and we go into a train that had been all bombed out. The windows were boarded up. And so we were boarded on this train, and no electricity, no water. If you had to pee, you did it out the window. So we were there, and it was about 2 days. We went up north until we got to where we were going to be, and then they assembled us and took us to where our assignment would be. It stunk over there. I mean, it was and see, we're out in the country. There was nothing. There's no electricity. There's no water. When we got there, we said we didn't really have any basic training. We're here. These guys are just like me. They were young people, and a lot of them were reservists that were called up, and they didn't know what to do with us. We didn't have any training. We didn't know how to do anything. And they assigned me to a heavy weapons company. It was machine guns and mortars and heavy and regardless rifles. I don't know anything about those. We don't know anything about those. And having had some ROTC probably helped me because I could deal with the officers, and I mean, they would be classmates of mine in college. They were just young guys too. My job turned out to be a reconnaissance sergeant for a heavy weapons company, and what that basically in a nutshell was, I had to make sure wherever our troops were put, where they were, and see that they had enough ammunition. So I did a lot of mountain climbing. Our lieutenant came to us. He's a big, tall guy, and he had the greatest personality you could ever want to see. And they made him the commander of the mortar platoon. And at that time, our mortar platoon was manned by a whole bunch of guys from Mississippi and Louisiana. And this is a black guy coming to be their boss. And we said, are we going to have a problem? And we all kind of raised our eyebrows and wondered what was going to happen. And after the first week, and we kept touch with what was going on, and it turned out, he says, those guys love him. He is the greatest guy they ever had. They'd do anything for him. And he had that kind of personality. And he says, I'm just myself. This is the beginning of when they're breaking down segregation. And it really happened. And this guy got along with everybody. It worked. Yeah, he was a damn good leader. See, we were all in the same boat. We got into something that none of us wanted to be there. I mean, I can't imagine anybody really wanted to be in a war and shooting at people, but I suppose there are some people who would like that, but we're resigned to our fate of what we're doing. You just did the best you could. We had a unit of South Korean soldiers attached to us, and we had 2 young Korean guys that were, I don't know what they were civilians, and they just hung on, and we'd feed them and take care of them. And I have a good story on one of them. I taught him how to gamble, and he went out one night. He came back with a pillowcase, 2 pillowcases full of money. He said, "Here, this is for you." He won it. I said, "No, I can't do that." So he took it. I said, I couldn't spend it anyhow. So I said, probably wasn't worth anything, but it was great big pillowcases that were full of money. He got things done. And so those 2 guys helped us, and they were kind of liaisons. You got to remember now, the roads are gravel. There's no electricity. There's no water. There's no plumbing. This is primitive, and this is woods. This is the way it was all the time. And one morning we got up, and from where the enemy line would be, there was a line of refugees. I don't know how many people wide. It was just a stream of people headed towards us. We don't know what they were. And they came up right by us. They were just refugees who wanted to get out of there. And the people up at where they were, they wanted to get through and come down south. We're trying to dig into the ground, and it was just like a rock. And at that time, the enemy was using artillery to shoot back towards us. They like to do psychological warfare. They'd have bugles and drums, and they'd try to sneak up on you wherever you were and drive you nuts. What they tried to get you to come out where they were, and we wouldn't bite. But those things would happen every once in a while, and that was nerve-wracking. I mean, you didn't know where they were or how many, but we got through that. And the enemy wasn't too bright because artillery shoots, heavy artillery just shoots a shot that goes in a curve. Mortars go up and down. They were shooting these things. We could see the shells going, or we'd see them go over us, and they'd go somewhere, and we'd hear them crashing into the mountains way behind on the other side of us. They had called in the Marines. I think they were the Marines. And anyway, they came over our heads, and we could see the whites of their eyes. And they plastered that valley with napalm. It was the biggest fireball you've ever seen in your life, and I'll never forget that. And the whole thing was just all the way up to where the enemy was. And I don't know whether they were Chinese or North Koreans, or they were enemy. And after it went down, died down, and the fire went out, the turkeys are up on the hill playing badminton. One night, these guys would be embedded with the infantry people. And one night, these Chinese surrendered. I think they surrendered. And they were cold and wet and hungry. And so you can see in the pictures, they looked like kids. They probably were. And they were just happier in hell to be somewhere where they could get meals and food and be warm. And so they brought them down from the mountain, from where we were to our unit, and brought them to where we were to our base. And then that's where I took the pictures that day. It was kind of interesting that we had them there, and then they sent them down to a prisoners of war camp. I presume that's where they were headed. We just did what we had, and the communication got better. See, we didn't really have any good clothes yet. I didn't get good warm clothes until just, it was in November and December. And I was on a truck for 6 or 8 hours, and I had black spots on my hands when I got to Tokyo. I still have a problem with circulation ever since then, that my hands, circulation, my fingers will turn blue. Like everything in life, I think a lot of things, like in the service, I would say 80 to 90% of the time was funny, humorous, pleasant. When it wasn't, it was bad, really bad. Why, one of the uglier ones was they sent some forward observers to, they were spotters. They have to go out in front of the front lines, and then they'd tell a position of the enemy they could see. And I had to take these guys up to wherever they were and get them, and we had to bring them back. And they killed all of them, and they were dead. We had to bring them back, and we did. And, I mean, you don't forget that kind of a thing. But they'd got up beyond the front lines, and they'd dropped something in on them and killed them. And I got the job of going up and getting them in body bags and bringing them back. That was not a fun day. We had one that went over the hill, and the captain got so mad. What he did is he shot himself. And the captain was so damn mad at him, he had him court-martialed, sent back to Kansas, and had him court-martialed. But he couldn't take it anymore, and he shot himself. And we knew what happened, and none of us, none of the troops would say anything about it. They said he got wounded. And the captain knew that had happened, and that we heard later that the poor kid got court-martialed. Right or wrong, depends on how you look at it. From our standpoint, we just felt sorry for him, but he just cracked. I was only in the Army for 21 months, and with a year of combat in that. My outfit was not one that was gung-ho for promotions or even given medals. But everybody's getting the Bronze Stars and Silver Stars and doing stuff, but our officers didn't believe in all that crap. They didn't do all that stuff, and they didn't go gung-ho for that. We had people that deserved a lot more, but they just didn't do it. And we didn't want it. And we wanted to get back and to get done. We were done. We were getting tired, and we were starting to get good clothing, but you get burned out. I mean, you're ready to get out of there. I've tried to pass a lot of this on to my kids, and I guess I didn't talk about it at home, and I just buried all that stuff, and it didn't have anything to do with it. And then it became more popular with what's going on today. It wasn't a popular war, and they didn't really care about it. In fact, they said you'd be smart if you didn't wear a uniform when you came home. I didn't know this one girl. I hadn't seen her yet, but this girl showed up. It was a real knockout. And they said, well, that's Carol. It's her birthday. She's 21 today. I says, well, I got to see her. So I got a date with her, and this would be like in September or October, and we were married in March. Had 3 kids and 50 years of marriage. One day something came up, and one of my kids asked me something, and I told him. He knew I'd been in the Army, and he didn't know I'd been in the infantry in Korea. Well, I knew because he knew I had a shell that I carried in my pocket as a good luck charm. I dug it out of the foxhole we were in the first week, and I always carried that as my good luck charm. But unfortunately, somewhere along the line, I wore a hole in my pants pocket and I lost it. But this is after I was out of the Army for several years. See, I came home from the Army, and I went back to college and got my degree. And then I worked for GM for 30 years. I had a lot of chapters and a lot of things happened that a lot of people never have a chance to do.